They say good fences make good neighbors. But what do you do when your neighbor's husband decides your property is his personal parking lot? And what if every time you bring it up, the HOA president, who just happens to be his wife, tells you you're the problem? I'll tell you exactly how I fixed it and why his precious SUV ended up on the back of tow truck with his name practically stamped on the windshield. My name is Dave Martinez. I'm 45 years old, and I live in a small house on a corner lot in a nice suburban neighborhood. My house is nothing fancy, just a simple 3-bedroom, 1-bath place, but it sits on a double lot, which means I have a big side yard that runs along the street. It's one of the things I love most about my home. That extra space gives me privacy, room for a garden, and a place for my kids to play. I've lived in this house for 15 years. For the first 10, everything was great. My neighbors were friendly, we looked out for each other, and everyone respected property lines. Then Karen Peterson moved in next door. Karen is in her late 50s, married to a guy named Tom, who's some kind of big shot lawyer. They bought the house 2 doors down from me, and almost immediately, Karen got involved in the HOA. Within a year, she was president, and she's been running the neighborhood like her personal kingdom ever since. Karen is one of those people who loves power. She loves telling other people what to do, what they can and can't have on their property, and how they should live their lives. She's fined people for having the wrong color curtains visible from the street, for leaving their trash cans out an hour too early, and for having garden gnomes in their flower beds. She's that kind of person. For the first few years Karen lived in the neighborhood, she mostly left me alone. I keep my property neat, I follow the rules, even the stupid ones, and I generally keep to myself. But then Tom started parking on my land. It started small. He'd have friends over for a party, and they'd park along the side of my house instead of in their driveway or on the street. At first, I didn't say anything. I figured it was just occasional, no big deal. But then it became more frequent. Tom would have people over, and cars would line up along the side of my property. Sometimes they'd block my driveway, making it hard for me to get in and out of my own home. One day, I came home from work to find a fancy sport car parked right in the middle of my side yard. There was tire marks on my grass, and the car was so close to my house that I could barely walk between it and my wall. I was furious. I went over to Karen's house and knocked on the door. Karen answered, looking surprised to see me. "Dave, what a nice surprise," she said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "Karen, there's a car parked on my lawn," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "It's blocking my driveway, and it's torn up my grass." Karen waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, that's just Tom's friend. He's only going to be a little while. I'm sure it's fine." "It's not fine," I said, my voice rising slightly. "It's my property, and I didn't give permission for anyone to park there." Karen's smile tightened. "Dave, we're all neighbors here. A little bit of give and take is necessary for a harmonious community." "Karen, this isn't give and take," I said. "This is someone parking on my property without my permission. It needs to move, and it needs to not happen again." Karen's face hardened. "I'll talk to Tom, but I really think you're overreacting. It's just a car." I took a deep breath. "Karen, if that car isn't moved in the next hour, I'm having it towed." Karen's eyes widened. "You wouldn't dare." "Try me," I said, then turned and walked back to my house. The car was moved within the hour. But that wasn't the end of it. A week later, I came home to find Tom's own luxury sedan parked in the same spot. This time, there was no party, no friends over, just Tom's car parked on my lawn like he owned the place. I went over to Karen's house again. This time, Tom answered the door. "Dave, what can I do for you?" he asked, smiling like we were old friends. "Tom, your car is parked on my property again," I said. "I need you to move it." Tom looked confused. "What are you talking about? I'm parked in my own driveway." "No, you're not," I said, pointing toward my house. "Your car is on my lawn." Tom laughed. "Don't be ridiculous. That's not your lawn. That's part of the HOA common area." I shook my head. "No, it's not. I own a double lot. This is my property. I can show you the property line on my deed." Tom waved his hand again. "There's no need for that. The HOA has been using that area for years. It's common property." "It's not common property," I said firmly. "It's my property, and I need you to move your car." Tom's smile disappeared. "Look, Dave, Karen is the HOA president. She says this area is for resident parking. I'm parking here as a resident. There's no problem. There's a problem, I said. It's my property, and I didn't give you permission to park there. Move your car, or I'll have it towed. Tom laughed again. You can't tow my car. You don't have the authority. We'll see about that, I said, then turned and walked away. I went inside and called my friend Mike, who owns a towing company. I explained the situation. Dave, if the car is on your property, you have every right to have it towed, Mike said. Do you have no parking signs up? No, but I could put some up, I said. Do it, Mike said. Put up signs, and if the car is still there after that, call me. I'll have a truck there in 10 minutes. The next day, I put up no parking signs along the side of my property, clearly marking it as private land. I took photos of the signs, showing the date and time. Then I waited. Sure enough, that afternoon, Tom parked his car on my lawn again. This time, I took photos of his car, clearly showing it parked on my property, right next to the no parking sign. Then I called Mike. Mike showed up with a tow truck 10 minutes later. He backed up to Tom's car, hooked it up, and started to tow it away. Just as he was about to drive off, Tom came running out of his house, followed by Karen. Hey, what are you doing? Tom yelled, running toward the tow truck. Mike got out of the truck. I'm towing your car, sir. You're parked on private property without permission. This is not private property. Tom yelled. This is HOA common area. Mike shook his head. No, it's not. I've seen the property deed. This is Mr. Martinez's private land. You're trespassing, and your vehicle is being towed at the owner's request. Tom looked furious. You can't do this. I'm a lawyer. I'll sue you. Mike shrugged. You can try, but you don't have a case. The car is on private property. There are clear no parking signs, and the owner has requested that it be towed. You have no legal standing here. By this time, a crowd had started to gather. Neighbors were coming out of their houses to see what all the commotion was about. Karen was trying to pull Tom away, but he wouldn't budge. This is ridiculous. Tom yelled. Karen, do something. You're the HOA president. Karen looked around at all the neighbors watching, her face red with embarrassment. Tom, please, let's just go inside and talk about this. No, Tom shouted. I'm not letting him tow my car. Mike pulled out a stack of papers. Mr. Peterson, I have a copy of the property deed showing that this land belongs to Mr. Martinez. I have photos of your car parked here, right next to the no parking signs. And I have a signed statement from Mr. Martinez authorizing me to tow any vehicle parked on his property without permission. You have no legal right to be here and no legal right to stop me from towing your car. Tom looked like he might explode. He looked at Karen, then at me, then back at Mike. Finally, he threw up his hands in defeat. Fine, take this stupid car, he yelled, then stormed back to his house, Karen following behind him. Mike finished hooking up the car and towed it away. The crowd slowly dispersed, with many of my neighbors coming over to thank me for finally standing up to Karen and Tom. The next day, Tom came to my door, looking humble. Dave, I wanted to apologize, he said. I was wrong about the property lines. Karen showed me the deed, and you're right. That land is yours. I nodded. Thank you for apologizing, Tom. But this isn't the first time your car has been parked on my land. It's been happening for months. Tom looked embarrassed. I know. Karen told me it was HOA property, and I believed her. I'm sorry. Where's my car? I asked. It's at the impound lot, Tom said. It's going to cost $500 to get it out. I smiled. Well, that's between you and the towing company. But I need you to promise me that neither you nor anyone else will ever park on my land again without my permission. Tom nodded. I promise. And I'll make sure Karen knows, too. Tom left, and I thought that was the end of it. But later that day, Karen came to my door, and she was not happy. Dave, we need to talk, she said, her voice tight with anger. What about, Karen? I asked, leaning against my doorframe. You had no right to tow Tom's car, she said, her voice rising. You embarrassed him in front of the whole neighborhood. I shook my head. Karen, I had every right. Tom was parked on my property without permission. I put up signs and I warned him multiple times. He chose to ignore me. Karen's face turned red. This is about more than just parking, and you know it. This is about you trying to undermine my authority as HOA president. I laughed. Karen, This has nothing to do with your authority. This is about my property rights. Tom was parking on my land. I asked him to stop. He didn't. I had his car towed. It's that simple. Karen's eyes narrowed. This isn't over, Dave. The HOA board will be discussing this at our next meeting, and there will be consequences. What kind of consequences? I asked. You'll see, Karen said, then turned and stormed away. A week later, I received a letter from the HOA. It stated that I was being fined $1,000 for harassment of HOA members and creating a disturbance in the neighborhood. The letter also stated that if I didn't pay the fine within 30 days, the HOA would place a lien on my house. I called my friend Mike, the lawyer, not the tow truck owner. When I explained what was happening, Mike was furious. "This is ridiculous, Dave," he said. "They have no authority to fine you for having a car towed from your own property. This is harassment, pure and simple. What can I do about it?" I asked. "I'll send them a cease and desist letter," Mike said. "If they don't back down, we'll sue them for harassment and abuse of power." Mike sent the letter, but Karen ignored it. A week later, I received another letter, this one stating that the HOA had placed a lien on my house for the unpaid fine. That's when Mike filed a lawsuit. We sued the HOA for harassment, abuse of power, and attempting to wrongfully place a lien on my property. We also named Karen personally, since she was the one driving this harassment. The case went to court a few months later. Mike presented evidence that the land was mine, that Tom had been parking there without permission, that I had put up clear signs, and that I had warned Tom multiple times before having his car towed. He also presented the letters from the HOA, showing that they were trying to fine me for exercising my property rights. Karen and Tom testified that they believed the land was HOA property, but Mike presented evidence that Karen had known the truth for years. A former HOA board member testified that Karen had been told about the property lines years ago, but had chosen to ignore the information because she wanted to use the land for resident parking. The judge ruled in our favor. The HOA was ordered to remove the lien from my house, pay me $10,000 in damages, and cover all my legal fees. Karen was personally ordered to pay an additional $5,000 for her role in the harassment. The Pine Ridge homeowners were furious when they found out how much Karen's actions had cost the HOA. At the next HOA meeting, Karen was removed as president, and the board voted to change the bylaws to prevent any single person from having so much power. As for Karen and Tom, they became pariahs in the neighborhood. No one wanted to associate with them after what they had tried to do. Within 6 months, they put their house up for sale and moved away. The lesson? Respect property lines and respect your neighbors. When you park where you shouldn't and ignore warnings, don't be surprised when your car disappears and you're left with nothing but a big bill and a damaged reputation. Because some of us have patience, we have proof, and we're not afraid to do what needs to be done to protect what's ours. Subscribe for more stories about HOAs getting what they deserve.